Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. We are here kicking off 2026 with my buddy and pal, Tony Shore. Happy New Year, Tony.
Happy New Year to you as well, Barb. We're rocking and rolling here in the new year. It feels like a good one so far.
I think
Hopefully,
so.
for all our listeners and viewers out there as well. Happy New Year. Yep.
That makes me think of the claymation Rudolph's Baby New Year.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
true.
don't
That
think
one.
I watched that one this year.
Yeah. Or when Frosty, the Christmas show, Frosty the
Oh,
Snowman,
yes.
we saw that around Christmas time. My wife and I are flipping through the channels. We watched a little bit of that. And every time he'd come back to life, he'd go, Happy
Happy New
birthday.
Year. Oh,
Yeah,
happy
he would say happy
birthday. That's
birthday.
right.
But I
He did.
changed it to New Year. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Tony, personal question here.
Oh.
Not that personal. Well,
Okay. Good.
did you set any financial goals for 2025?
Yes.
I know it's a loaded question. And how many of those did you achieve?
I'll tell you what. We set 3 main financial goals.
Okay.
We only hit 1 out of the 3, but we came so close on the other 3. We're calling them, or other 2, we're calling them successes.
Well, that's good.
And it's mainly the main one though that we hit was how much money that we wanted to put toward our emergency fund.
Okay.
Build up the savings, and we are still working on that. We don't have 6 months worth of living expenses yet in an emergency fund because we've dipped into it and then we've not paid back what we took out. So we're trying to be more disciplined on that. That was a goal in 2025, and we're just extending that goal. We're going to set a new goal, but we hit our goal for last year as far as how much we wanted to put in there. And we're doing it in stages. We didn't say our goal is 6 months worth of living expenses.
No.
That's a long-term goal. You've got to have realistic yearly goals. And that's, I think, the mistake people make. They hear 6 months worth of living expenses or 6 months worth of my salary. I can't do that. That's crazy, right?
Yes. And I heard you say you only set 3 financial goals for last year, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. In the past, have you set like a lot of goals and you're just like looking at your wife and going, honey, this is the year we're going to change everything. And you end up with a list of like 7 or 8 things, maybe even more.
Yep. We've done that. We've had 10 items on the list, and I've learned that doesn't work for me.
You lose steam so quickly because it can become such an unattainable thing at that point. And so, like I said, we're a couple of days into the new year. We're recording this a little bit before then, but when you are looking at these goals for the new year, go back and look if you set goals last year and do what you did, Tony. See how close you came to reaching those goals. See where you may have exceeded, see where you stumbled, and try to figure out why you stumbled, not from a perspective of I've failed, but what have I learned? And I try to focus on things not necessarily being a failure as much as a learning experience.
Yeah.
Because that gives you a much healthier mindset in going toward it.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged from previous failures. I mean, so many people set goals and New Year's resolutions and never achieve them. I mean, what are the stats? Most New Year's resolutions, people give up on them, like exercising at a gym every day. They give up after, I think it's 3 weeks. It's not
something to that effect. Yes. I, for one, do not go to a regular gym in the month of January, because there are a lot of other people.
Oh, the newbies. Oh, it's so packed. Every January, those gyms are packed. And by the end of February or March, I think it's March 1st, you go back and it's empty.
I've heard them referred to as the resolutes.
The resolutes. And there's nothing wrong with, we're not making fun of people who want to get healthy or exercise more and setting a goal and going to the gym starting in January. That's great. That's admirable. But unfortunately, the ability to stick with it is tough.
It is. And it is tough to change any kind of habit.
Yeah.
You know, back in
It
the
takes a
day that
while to develop a new
it does,
habit or break a habit.
it does. You know, back in the day, they used to tell you if you did something for 21 consecutive days, that you would cultivate a new habit. But the truth is, it really needs to be more like 60 days before it
Oh, yeah.
becomes an ingrained behavior. Which is why, you know, as you are looking at your resolutions, whether they're financial or otherwise, if you're a journaling person, look back at what you said at the beginning of 2025 and see how close you got to that at the end. When the good news is you can always start over. For a lot of people, they wait until the end of the year and when we flip the calendar over to make that change. My encouragement to you is to not come up with 5, 6, 7, 10 goals that you want to achieve financially this year. I would set 2 or 3 more hands-off goals. Things like increasing your contribution to your retirement plan by 1
Yeah.
or 2%. Because that's kind of a passive thing. That's just the discipline of going into your payroll system, whatever it is, and making that adjustment, and then making sure that you can continue to make ends meet after you make that adjustment. And then 1 or 2 of the bigger goals, like you set with fully funding that emergency fund and having those X number of months expenses socked away in a savings, hopefully something that's paying a decent amount of interest. Um, I would even say to take part of that emergency fund and put it into a certificate of deposit, shorter term, but you'll probably get a better interest rate on that. And
Right.
again, you know, I am offering advice. I am an advisor. If I'm not your advisor, check with your advisor before you make any of these money moves. Uh, because there also might be other investment options that offer
Right.
you a better rate of return, still keep it conservative, and still keep it liquid, meaning that you can get to it if you need it.
Okay.
But go ahead, Tony.
Well, I think that's great, and I think that, you're right. You need to understand allocation, how much to keep liquid,
Hmm.
that type of thing. But yeah, the financial goals might need some updating, and in order to do that, I love what you said. You've got to reach out to a trusted financial services
You really
professional
do,
to help you achieve those.
especially if you are nearing retirement. When I put together my financial plans for my clients, I usually try to build the spending around what their current take-home pay is. For some people, though, that's not necessarily going to be an option, and they might find that they have to cut back some. If you are nearing retirement and you are concerned about whether or not you're going to be able to maintain your current lifestyle, the first thing I'm going to do is suggest that you call our offices at area code 913-553-6222. Let's take a look at what your current spending plan is. Let's take a look at what your Social Security benefits may be, if you're eligible for a pension, and then we'll take a look at that nest egg and see how long that nest egg would last at your current rate of spending. Because if you don't know where you're headed, it's kind of hard to figure out if you're on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's true. If yeah, if you don't know where you're going, how are you gonna get there? And,
Right.
that's not gonna work. That's like leaving New York and say, "I'm gonna drive to, Las Vegas from New York," and you leave New York and you know, "Okay, I'm gonna head west," and you don't have a
Mhm.
map, you don't have a plan, you don't know how long it takes to get there, you're not sure how many miles it is, and you have no GPS or map or any
Mhm.
sense of you've never driven it before and
Yeah, see.
expecting to get there in an efficient manner.
Right, you get on
Um,
Interstate 90 because, this is going west, I can stay on it. You will not end up in Las Vegas, you will end up in Sheridan, Wyoming before you reach the West Coast.
right. You may head up to the Midwest and across some of the most, flat, empty country you've ever driven across. Have you ever
Oh,
driven from one side of Nebraska to the other? That's a tough
I've
one.
driven across one side of Kansas to the other. I
Oof.
was a child and drove across,
South Dakota, North
South
Dakota.
Dakota South Dakota.
From Sioux
Um,
Falls to Rapid City, that's a long trip on
no
I-90.
kidding.
I've been on that one.
Um, I mentioned my dad. I was born in Chicago, and the first veterans hospital that my dad ended up working for outside of Chicago was in Sheridan, Wyoming. So I've driven across South Dakota many, many times. Um, as a passenger, and usually at night. My parents got smart and figured out that if they left after my dad finished work that day and drove overnight, because it was an 18-hour drive back then, the speed limit was 55.
Yeah.
That my sister and I slept through most of it and weren't doing the kid things like counting off 5 minutes and asking what time it was.
Right. I always did that.
Because this was in the 70s.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
there were no iPads, there were no movies to watch.
There were no
There were
seatbelts being worn either. I'll tell you that in the 70s, at least to my
probably not,
parents. And
probably not, yeah.
my parents had a huge Bonneville, like
In the
was a
back
big
seat.
car, and
Yes.
the ledge on the back ledge, so the back seat was just a bench seat, but there was this big back ledge. I remember as a child going from Worthington, Minnesota to Sioux Falls. It's about an hour drive. And I was tired, and they said, lay up in the back window or
And
across the
take a
seat.
nap.
So I'd be laying in the back window. Can
Mhm.
you imagine if you pulled up to a car today and somebody was laying on a ledge in the back window? The cars now don't really have them, but
You would call the police.
you would call family services
Yes.
would be coming taking that child away from those parents. I mean,
Yes,
the stuff our parents did, but I digress. But yes,
we rabbit trailed big time
yeah,
there.
I did.
But my
Yeah,
point is that you want to come up with, a you wanna know where you're headed, and
yeah.
you've got to know where you want to end up. I mean, I'm also Lewis Carroll and
Oh, Alice
and
in
Alice in
Wonderland.
Wonderland.
Lewis Carroll's a great writer.
Yes, with the Cheshire Cat. Well, if you
Oh,
don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which way you go. Um,
I love that line.
but we don't want you to be that way with your finances. And if you are using the turn of the calendar as an opportunity to start designing that financial future that you have envisioned, because envisioning and designing are two different things. We want you to reach out to us and we will help you make sure that you are headed down the right path. You can either go to our website, bgwealthmanagement.com, and go to the contact us page, or you can call us at area code 913-553-6222. We'll set up a no cost, no obligation, complimentary consultation where we will look at the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll do a complete and unbiased review of your current portfolios. We have a great team of certified financial planners that we partner with that utilize Morningstar to give you the raw information about whether you're in a decent set of investments or whether you could make some minor course corrections that would save you either on fees or get you into a better performing asset, or make sure that we're structuring your portfolio in line with what your risk truly is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. And I know that you love to help people, Barb, and hear
I
from
do.
folks. So I hope they'll give you a call again, folks. That number is 913-553-6222. And really quick, Barb, you mentioned it just makes me think of it every time you say it is how are you going to get there if you don't know where you're going? And if you don't know where you're going, what direction do you go in? And like the Cheshire Cat, I love that line from Alice in Wonderland is like, what difference does it make which direction you don't go if you don't know where you're going? That's a great one, but it always makes me also think of the scene from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where they're driving down the wrong side of the interstate and the people across from them are yelling, trying to get their attention because they're going to you're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. And John Candy looks at Steve Martin and he goes, He goes, they must be drunk. How do they know? He goes, what do they say? They say we're going the wrong way. How would they know where we're going? And then Steve Martin
Exactly.
goes, yeah, right. How would they know where you're going? Makes the crazy sign, rolls up his
Oh my
window.
gosh, that's something I haven't seen in years.
Oh, that's a great scene. You're going the wrong way. And they're heading into traffic, right? On the wrong side of the interstate.
Yes.
And people are trying to tell him, and it's like, how did they know where we're going? And that's classic. Sometimes people are blind to it. And like, it's like the person who says, I don't need a financial advisor. How would they know where I'm going? Well, that's why you get to know the clients and people you meet
Right.
and work with and their goals and their desires. Like, let's look at where you're headed and then come up with a way to get there, find out what is going to get you there. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, some people can't see the trees for the forest, and
Right.
some people can't see the forest for the trees.
Yes, exactly. Well, Barb, great show once again today. I appreciate all your wisdom, blowing the
Thanks,
dust off
Tony.
those old financial goals and actually making them work and making them
Yes.
stick.
Uh-huh.
I gleaned a lot. Let's hope my goals for this year, for 2026, adding more to that emergency fund to keep building it up. Hopefully we will meet those goals and we will stick to the plan.
Yes. Best wishes with that. And for any of you listening that want an extra hand, that's what we're here for. Call our offices at 913-553-6222.
All right. Thanks, Barb. And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Goen.
We'll see you soon.